Hello everyone and welcome to the LDG Experience podcast. Today we are supposed to be discussing Nurgle.
The third Chaos God.
The third Chaos God.
As I have been blessed with his gifts.
Yes.
For the last couple of weeks and have just about gotten back on my feet.
Yeah, so we were, but
yes,
something has occurred out in the wilds of the internet.
Yes.
And Games Workshop. And I brought this, and Pete already knows about it. You've watched the video.
Yeah.
Have you watched it, Evie? You've heard it?
No, you've never shown it me.
Okay, so...
You've shown it everyone but me.
Oh, all right, okay. Well, basically there is an Adeptus Custodes video that has caused some aggravation. And apparently also part of the new Adeptus Custodes Codex. In the video I watched, didn't actually reference this section of the Codex. So I watched a video by someone who I'm not going to name, partly because I don't remember his name, and partly because I think the video was absolute tripe. And he was like, they've changed all the lore and all this, and he referenced that video it's on Warhammer TV. So I went and watched it. And I was like, this man is talking absolute tripe. There's nothing about this video. And then Pete pointed out today that actually there is a section in the Codex which I've now read. I actually think it might be an idea to read it. Let's do everything else first, though, actually.
Yes.
Having said that, we need to get all the other stuff out of the way, don't we? Sorry, I interrupted you. Oh. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm used to it at this point.
So Lazy Dragon Gaming, you can find us at lazydragongaming.com. You can find us at Lazy Dragon Gaming on YouTube and on Spotify and all other places, and LD Gaming Live on Twitch, where I stream Lorcana on Pixelborn, and my good lady wife streams some knitting, the Knotty Knitter.
I do.
Yes, and all of those things. So if you want to relax and sit back and listen to some knitting needles clicking, it is actually very relaxing.
And me whispering stitch numbers out to myself.
Yes, it's actually quite a relaxing thing. If you're struggling to fall asleep, you can listen to my wife count to you, and the knitting needles clicking, and it will aid in your restfulness.
It's less counting and more what stitch I'm doing on each stitch.
Yes, and also if you want to watch, she's currently knitting a shawl, and you're on part 2 of the shawl.
I'm knitting a cowl, and on Friday I will be streaming part 4.
There we go.
I got that as wrong as I could possibly get it. Thank you.
You're very welcome, dear.
So Twitch is really cool. In fact, Twitch is really cool, Pete, and I'm pretty certain you can be found on Twitch.
Yes, I can be found on Twitch finally again. Like I said, after a couple of weeks of being visited by Grandfather Nurgle, I had to take some time off. But I am back Mondays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 6 till 10 on Twitch, where I'm painting. Well, we're painting all sorts of different things.
What are you painting at the moment?
I was getting my eyes back in, because I've also realised, there's a quick aside, that I actually need reading glasses when I paint miniatures now. Because I was really struggling to focus on miniatures. I was having a real trouble, and I didn't realise what it was. I thought, you know what, maybe it is because I'm getting old.
You old?
Yeah, so because I can still read without reading glasses, but miniatures, when they're really close...
So they're painting glasses?
They're effectively painting glasses.
Painting glasses.
Yeah, they're not reading glasses.
Not reading glasses.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Painting glasses.
So we're hopefully back on to sort of special characters by the time you listen to this. Could be anything. Yeah. From any of the Games Workshop factions, or it might also be part of my recovery. I did a little quick aside. On part of my recovery, I went home to where I was born in the West Country in Trowbridge.
Down there.
Down there, yeah.
Yeah.
And I went around town and showed my missus where I was from.
And she's currently traumatised and in an asylum.
No, she was. It was just what we needed. Thankfully, it was actually what we needed, because the West Country is very relaxing. It's like going back to the Shire.
Yes, it is, actually, yeah.
So, anyway, we were walking around town, and I was explaining to her how there used to be a toy shop there where we used to go. Every time I would go visit my grandparents, I would go there, and we'd go to the toy shop, and that's where I got my first model kits, and it's also where I got my first Games Workshop models, and for some reason, it's still there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's 30 years. After 30 years, it's still there, and I got really emotional because of all the memories that came flooding back. And I went in, and it's still the same. I remember it.
Right.
It's smaller, but that's only because I'm bigger.
You're bigger, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, because I've been talking about doing some throwback models like Airfix kits and stuff on the stream, and I thought it would be massively appropriate to buy an Airfix kit from them
I think it is. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Where it all started.
Yeah, yeah.
Coming around, so that'll be coming up soon. I've got a
That's
Spitfire, Mark II Spitfire.
Right.
To paint on the stream at some point soon. So yeah, that was a really fun
And
little
if
trip
people-
down astronaut memory lane.
If people want to find you on Twitch and YouTube and
Yes,
all the
it's at Onyx Dragon Gaming.
yes,
On all the various places where social media is sold
Yes.
and on Twitch.
where your information is gathered.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm trying to. I'm in the process of overhauling Instagram because I know that's the better one.
For you, it is, yes, because
Yeah.
of you paint things and the pictures and all the
Yeah,
rest of it.
I
It's-
show
it's-
pictures. I just
yeah.
don't understand how it works. So
You
I'm trying
take,
my best.
You take a picture of something and then you post it on Instagram.
Yeah, with some sort of filter.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
I was just like, that's all I know about Instagram.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You
See,
take,
I
you take a picture and you post it.
just got my head around Twitter, and now Twitter is a cesspool of evil and horribleness.
Yeah,
and
so
I just
apparently,
can't- so now I'm moving away from that.
So apparently, my daughter, who's an artist,
Mm.
and apparently Twitter was a big thing for artists.
Yeah, yeah.
And now it is not. Formerly, Tumblr was a big thing
Yes,
for artists,
yes.
and then they killed that by banning adult
NSFW,
yeah,
yeah.
and like NSFW stuff. But apparently, in doing so, all they did was get rid of all the legitimate artists, and now it's just all porn bots, which is like wait,
irony, yeah.
What?
We solved the problem.
Yeah. Now it's just porn.
Now it's just as it was always meant to be.
Nothing but and apparently Twitter
Internet is for porn.
Yes.
apparently Twitter has done something similar. So now everyone's moving. So Instagram, we don't actually have a Twitter or an X. Well, that's not true. We do have one. However, we can't access it.
Yeah.
So fuck it. Basically,
Yeah,
So,
I've got to that stage now. I'm just like, right, I'm just going to concentrate on Facebook and Instagram. figure out how
Facebook
they
and Instagram.
work.
As much as I don't like Facebook, I think it's a bit.
I mean, you're not the one that has to deal with it.
Not anymore. I came out. I stopped. Like Brexit and COVID killed me for that. I'm just like, you know what? I'm done with these things, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to have it.
Yeah.
But yes, so Lazy Dragon Gaming, Onyx Dragon Gaming, all over every social media. If you are not already subscribed and you are following us on YouTube, 82% of the people who listen to us around the world, for we have global listeners, yes.
Global viewership, listenership.
We do, and we have gained some Spotify listenerships.
Yes, we do.
Ooh.
But if you're not subscribed, please click the button. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps us immensely. That's both for myself, me and Evie at Lazy Dragon Gaming, and Onyx Dragon Gaming
Very much
at
so,
their things as well. So if you could like their stuff,
Like,
and
follow, share, subscribe, interact with the
yeah,
algorithm.
make the algorithm like us.
Make it dance, yeah.
Because that is good. Evie's going to tell us where we got our new listeners from, and then I'm going to read the paragraph from the Adeptus Custodes book.
That has caused
That
so
has
much
caused
controversy.
so much controversy that we are probably not going to get to Nurgle today. We might actually get.
shall see.
We'll see.
So, if you are in New South Wales, hello.
G'day.
G'day. I think is it New South Wales? Yes.
Australia, yeah.
Australia, yes. Not just the regular South Wales that we
No,
have. The
indeed.
new part.
And if you are in Virginia,
Oh,
hello to you too.
Virginia.
That's
Texas, right?
No,
No, not
no,
Texas.
it's
Next,
East
next,
Coast.
East Coast, the other side.
near,
sorry.
near DC. I'm not going to try and do a Virginian accent.
No.
but yeah.
The reason I was because Howdy is Texas, and I was thinking
Yeah.
Texas at that point. I know Virginia's nowhere near Texas, but I was trying to think of the correlation between Howdy in Texas and what the Virginians would say.
I was thinking the South.
Yes.
Like as in the deep South we think of over here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I
It's not
don't
really
I
deep
think
South.
that might be considered.
I know that Virginia is a hub of gaming.
Yes, it
It's
is.
very important.
Yeah, it's a very. There've been a lot of Virginians that have been very key and clutch in gaming
Yes.
throughout the.
in various different games.
Yeah,
and
loads
things,
and loads
yeah.
of different games. Virginia's a hub of it.
Indeed.
I don't know whether they actually do it in Virginia or whether they have to leave.
I'm sure it was in Virginia. Like
Right.
there used to be a lot of big tournaments, especially for X-wing when it was massive.
Right.
There's big ones.
So maybe Star Wars is a thing in Virginia then. Maybe that's. Well, let us know. Leave a comment if you're our Virginian listener.
Yes.
We would appreciate letting us know.
Indeed.
What is your plastic crack of choice or cardboard crack of choice, depending, of course. Because we have coming up, by the way, another podcast.
Ooh.
Not with Pete though.
Oh.
No, sorry, mate, but you're
fine.
being replaced
fine.
by some card floppers
All right.
who are doing a Lorcana
Ooh.
podcast with a friend of ours called Harry. H is a good mate. I've known him a long time. He used to be a Yu-Gi-Oh player. Now he plays a good game. He plays Lorcana now. So yeah. But right now to the consternation of the internet.
Yes.
Are you ready? So it says here. Custodian Caladice, and I'm not going to pronounce her middle name because I cannot. but it's what I believe is Caladice Kesh stood upon the bridge of the Cobra-class destroyer named Vigilant Flame. The warship belonged to the mighty Battlefleet Solar. She lingered in the shadows at the back of the bridge, positioned at a spot where she could observe the actions of every crew member, be they in the instrumentation pits, at the armament shrines, or, in the case of Shipmaster Lethwick, stood ramrod straight before his command throne. And the key to this, there are two words in this that are key. The first one being custodian, and the second one being she.
Yes.
Now, that is literally everything that we get about what is a monumental piece of history in Games Workshop lore.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because up until literally this point, there have been no female custodians.
No. That we know
of.
Yeah.
I should say. And apparently Games Workshop, unbeknownst to me, I didn't know this bit, but apparently Games Workshop have come out and said, no, they've always been there, you just haven't seen them before.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but I agree with you, Pete, that is meh way of getting them in there.
It's lazy writing.
Yeah.
I
do not need
see.
that
My thing is, I hope regular listeners of this show will realise that I have quite a liberal view on these things, and I'm all for diversity and inclusion, etc., etc. But I am like a lover of Games Workshop's lore and things, and I've been through lots of changes from retcons and things, both in this and other media, comic books, for example. And my first thought was, this reminded me of when I think it was the 6th edition Space Marine Codex, or 7th edition. I think it was the
7th edition Space Marine
Codex. I think it
was
7th or 6th.
Yeah.
It was one of them where the Centurions, I don't even know what it's actually called, but I call it the Storm Potato.
It's a Stormhawk, right? The Stormhawk gunship? Stormhawk, I think.
Storm Talon.
Storm Talon, that's it.
Storm Talon. Because the Stormhawk was basically them trying to fix it.
Yeah.
But the Stormhawk, the Storm Talon, the Centurions, and a couple of other things. Basically, that entire release just came out of nowhere, and the designs really didn't feel like they fit anything, and they tried to shoehorn them in. Like, in the background, they were like, oh yeah, remember like Cold Steel Ridge was this big battle from the first Tyrannic Wars? Oh yeah, they were just off screen, you didn't see them. They were like, they're doing this thing. And it felt really cheap.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, they've always been there. And you're like, but they haven't though.
And
also, they logically don't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, I could go off on a massive rant about Centurions, which annoy the shit out of me, because they literally make no sense in any context, except possibly one, but that's a argument for a different issue. But the point being is, it felt like lazy writing, just be like, they've always been there, they've just been off screen.
Yeah.
It annoys me because it feels like a really cheap way of doing it. And especially when it comes to diversity stuff, it cheapens it, I think, and I think it also it has the immediate backlash. Like I said, I'm not a fan of this change, not because of what it is, but because of how it's been implemented.
Yeah.
Well, where is the origin story? Where is the reasoning behind how she overcame the challenges that only 0.01% of
that's
traditionally
different Space Marines,
men?
Yeah. Well, no, but custodians must have a similar, right?
The thing is, again, I could argue the same argument I have against female Space Marines, which is the traits you're looking for.
Yeah.
To be a custodian, because it literally said in one of the previous codexes. The creation of the thing is wrapped in mystery, but all is known that they are the sons of noble houses, and it specifically says sons of noble houses.
Yeah.
So, like, again, the argument on that we'll use is, but you're getting butthurt over them changing the law, and the law's changed over all these years, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, it has, and when it's bad. It's bad, and it's a bad change.
Yeah.
Because the other side of this argument that I make is that the whole point about the custodians and the other massively the irony being, because it's pretty much written into their lore as well, is the oft forgotten Anathema Psychana, the Sisters of Silence, are supposed to be the other half.
I am nodding along, which I just suddenly realised is completely pointless.
But it's like the whole thing is since the heresy thing is you have the custodians or the left hand or right hand, whatever, of the Emperor, and the Sisters of Silence or the Anathemas Arcana are the other hand.
Yes.
That's why they are referred to as the Talons of the Emperor together. There is a obligatory book reference moment, the Watch of the Throne book with starring Alea and Valerian.
Which, by the way, if you haven't read that book, I think that...
And in the Regent Shadow, I think
the Regent Shadow.
is both fantastic.
They're really good books, but really importantly in reference to this particular thing, is that they explain about the bringing them back together part, which makes this like really redundant. You've just everything Alea went through, you're minimising that by doing it this way, because you have a fantastic novel series starring like Alea, this badass like woman who like went through hell to get to where she was, hated absolutely everything about the Custodes because of...
Well, she hates everybody.
Yeah. But because they forgot about them. They let them rot for 10,000 years. They got forgotten. They got left. They got ignored. And she comes back and is like, no, I'm going to do it this way.
Yeah.
And you're going to listen to me. And Valerian says, okay.
Yeah.
Let's go. And when they work together...
And when they fight together, they realise that their two fighting styles are designed to mesh together.
Yes.
Like, the whole point is that the Sisters of Silence are relatively unaugmented humans.
Yeah, they're just
really, really good at what they do.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I always like the idea that the combined talents of the Emperor it sort of exemplify what it is to be male and what it is to be female.
Yes.
Like, your Custodians are your big, strong dudes, whereas your sisters are lithe and agile and use that to their advantage.
Yeah,
and they work together.
And in concert and together, they are
better than some of their
overwhelmingly destructive.
Yes,
like against the enemies of the Imperium.
And again, I feel like the Sisters of Silence have been let down by Games Workshop so badly.
Yeah,
they are such an amazing army. When they first announced they were coming into the Heresy, I was super excited. I really wanted to. I've wanted a Sisters of Silence army ever since they were sort of explained to us. And I was so excited they were going to... And they've got a full army list, even in version 2 of Heresy. And they have like one kit and one upgrade kit. And that's it. Like, and it's like, why? Why do you keep forgetting to do them?
So in this particular instance with the Sisters, and I know that lore-wise, I will point out that the Anathema Psychana despise the reference to the Sisters of Silence as a name. But Sisters is much easier to get through than Anathema Psychana. So that being the case, so the Sisters of Silence basically get one kit for 40k, and they're an attachment to the Custodes book.
Yeah.
Who don't get many kits either. To be fair, they're like they're not exactly swimming in kits, but
even then, like again, if you compare them the Forge World stuff to the GW stuff, they kind of double up as well. So both sides were like, hey, we're going to make our own jet bikes.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to make our own Terminator equivalent.
Yeah.
And it's like, whereas the Sisters are like, yay, we get bolt pistols.
Yeah. And I think they could have done a lot more with the Sisters of Silence
because they're more interesting.
Yeah.
Like the units are really cool. Like they've got like augmented dogs with flamethrowers and melters and stuff.
Who doesn't want that?
Like the Witch Seeker Squad, you've got like Oblivion Knights, and there's all these really cool descriptions of really awesome different things, and we have nothing.
No,
and it's really sad.
That I think is the biggest annoyance of this, where it comes to diversity in Games Workshop, where they've gone, hey, female custodians have always been there. But the thing that we've had for years, that we've done nothing with, is like, here, just nudge this female reference in there, and that'll placate everybody.
Yeah. Well,
as opposed to doing the two things, which is like more Sisters of Battle, more Adeptus Sororitas in better and good armour,
again,
more Sisters of Silence in better stuff with good armour. Like, that is a much more inclusive way of doing it than just a throwaway reference in a codex for a model that you don't even have.
Yeah.
Well, the other way of looking at it, let's put a completely different spin on it. This could be, hear me out, Games Workshop's first trans character. And I hate that, not because I am anti-trans or anything like that, but because if that is the case, if that is the logic that they have followed, then that cheapens everything that trans people go through.
I mean, that is...
That's an interesting way of looking at it.
It is,
to be honest, obviously all genetically modified people are always referred to as
transhuman, yeah.
because they are post, like, it's the reason why part of the reason for the argument about like male space marines and things like that is like you could no longer really call them male because they don't really have
they're barely human anymore.
Yeah,
like,
and it's same with the Custodians.
Custodians are barely human.
I think you can have that reading, but I feel like that personally to me, I feel that's she's not the idea is that she is explicitly female. It's like wasn't male before. Like she's just.
Well, it doesn't say that though in that paragraph.
It doesn't say that though.
Does it?
True, but like
if
like I said, if
that's even cheaper.
Yeah, but I genuinely don't think that they'd be that clumsy with that kind of thing.
I don't think so either. But if that is
what
they've done,
I hope because that would be even worse.
My also thing is that with the stories is like one of the reasons why I like the fact that, for example, Space Marines are all male. Is that the thing that makes Space Marines is the fraternity.
Yeah.
It's the thing with the Primarchs is it's a story of fathers and sons and brothers. Yeah. And that is a particular type of story.
Yeah.
And I think that we could do with more like similar stories, like I said, about the Anathema Arcana or the Sisters of Battle, which is about sorority, which is about like mothers and daughters and sisters, because it's a whole different type of story. You have plenty of institutions that are just like both. The Imperium doesn't really care about like diversity as such because it doesn't have time for petty culture war nonsense. It's like, this is why the Imperial Guard, it's great now the Imperial Guard are all, in fact, a lot of them, we've had so many like female characters come to the fore in Imperial Guard. The only one I'm not a fan of, Ursula Creed, because she's just a carbon copy of her father.
Yeah,
she feels like a gender swap of Ursula Creed, and that it just feels cheap. Again, it feels cheap to me. Yeah. Whereas someone like Severina Rain, Commissar Severina Rain, or Minka Lesk, like fantastic characters.
Like you get an awful lot of the captains and admirals of the Imperial Navy.
That's really funny. That's what's really interesting to me with that is because that came down to when they were. I remember some of the authors saying about this in Horus Heresy was the reason that happened is because obviously because all the Space Marines are male.
Yeah.
There's no very few opportunities to write female characters, so the female characters end up becoming the shipmasters and the admirals and things. Yeah. Just because, but it also made sense to me because like if you're going to take like, let's say you've got a class of people and you're taking like the top 10 men specifically to go off and be Space Marines. Well, number 1 might have been a girl. Number 6 might have been a girl. Yeah. Number 7, 8, and 9. So you've left with those guys, with those women. That, of course, they're going to be like the best people, and they're going to go off and join the fleet and stuff instead. Of course, they're going to end up as
admirals, captains, shipmasters.
Exactly,
because the shipmaster of the Vengeful Spirit is a woman, and is now part of the ship.
Yeah, well, there's also what's the face on the Conqueror.
The Conqueror is
another absolutely fan favourite character. Yeah, I forget her name off the top of my head just because.
Like you get some
Latara. No, it's gone. No. It was Latara 7, I think, or something like that. But yeah, same with Princeps and Knights and things like that.
Yeah, so a lot of the Princeps that pilot Imperial Knights
are female or Titans. It's like again, these make sense to me in like.
Well, you're stripping away from not every planet, but a lot of planets. You take away the most physically able and sound of mind men to be Space Marines. Then everybody below that either works for something or is in the Imperial Guard.
Yeah.
So you've already taken the top part of... Because the other thing to remember is that when you're creating a Space Marine, you only like 1 in 1,000 even get close. Maybe even more than that. The number might be higher than that.
They tend to because obviously they come from death worlds and things. Yeah. They recruit them from like these sort of feral. A lot of them are recruited from like feral worlds where where you're really tough. You have to be ridiculously tough just to survive.
Yes.
And even then, like you say, a lot of them don't make it.
And like most don't make it. Reference to to Dante, the book, where he goes to become a Space Marine. It's his journey to becoming a Space Marine, and like. Not only do they not make the trial, they don't even get there alive.
Yeah, a lot of them die.
Like they don't even get to the trial to even be tested. and they die on the way there because the worlds are so harsh.
Yeah. And then when they get there to fight each other to the death. And it's like, this is what my point. It's like when you're filtering out for certain characteristics, you tend to end up with towards one thing or another.
Yeah, and it tends to end up towards men because they are generally physically stronger, and they get to where they're supposed to be within the Space Marines. And then when you get to apotheosis, when you get to that part of it, they don't survive that either.
No, a lot of them don't take the gene
They
seed.
don't take to the gene. They die at that point. So
or go feral, or have all sorts of
defects.
The Tower of Amareo is filled for a reason. Yes,
that's just the Blood Angels. Like the Space Wolves have the same problem.
Yeah,
the Imperial Fists have a different problem. And then you get through that. And you're talking about 0.01% of the aspirants that set off from home to become a Space Marine that become a Space Marine, and then when they become one, they're not human anymore.
Yeah.
Look at the Grimaldus's view of normal humans when he refers to the people around him.
Yeah.
Why would I care what they think? The Flesh Tearers.
Yeah.
The Flesh Tearers. Why do I value what the cattle think of me?
Yeah.
And they're the good guys.
Yeah.
The Blood Angels, much more caring, the Imperial Fist, much more caring, fair, so are the Space Wolves. But to get to that point...
But I feel like that is partly, again, you can come back to and say that kind of dismissiveness of weakness is kind of, is a toxic male trait.
Yeah.
Right? Which is kind of wrapped up in it.
Yeah.
Like that lack of compassion.
Yeah. It's
good for storytelling, and I think it's also... Personally, it's better. It's by being a male thing. It's the bad side of them being all men as well.
Yeah.
Even Malkador says, there's a line in the Heresy.
I was going to say this actually.
Where Malkador says, I said to him we should have made them all women.
Yeah.
And he laughed at me.
Yeah.
He thought I was being silly, and he was like, no.
I was being honest. It should have been.
Yeah, we needed that sort of empathy.
Because the one thing that's always lacking, even with the greatest exemplars of Space Marines, is empathy. They lack a lot.
And obviously there's the camera, there's the spectrum, but I think that it's
more
it's almost the
flaw.
The thing about 40k is because 40k isn't a lovely place.
No,
that actually it's the flaws that also make for good storytelling.
Yeah.
And being all men is a flaw.
Yeah.
You could argue that it is a flaw. They don't have that's why a lot of read some of the books like the Gaunt's Ghost books where they've got men and women in the same regiment, or the Caiaphas Cain book.
Yes.
It's the perspective, because they've got all those perspectives, what allows them to be so successful, I think. And
Gaunt's Ghost.
And again with all Amberley Vale, she's a ridiculously awesome kick-ass Inquisitor that pops up and basically just ruins Caiaphas' life for a while. But there's I think Giswick's done a very good job of upping inclusion, and I know a lot of it to do with back in the day was to do with model limitations.
Yeah,
it's the same with having people of different ethnic features.
Yes,
because you can't just take you take a basic Caucasian head and paint it a different ethnicity. It looks like the model's wearing blackface.
Yes,
there just is because people of different ethnicities have fundamentally different facial structures. So back in the day, when you didn't have a lot of space on a frame, you couldn't do that.
No.
But now we see it a lot on a lot of the new Marine frames, especially, have got people from all different ethnic backgrounds, and people are losing their shit again when they were showing off the Dawn of Fire covers for the Dawn of Fire series, and one of the first ones had a black Ultramarine on it, and people were losing their minds over it. I'm like, but that makes sense. It makes logical sense.
Ultramar's huge.
It's a planet. It's a planet, and the planet, from different areas of the planet, you're going to have people with different levels of melanin.
It's not just that. The Ultramarines recruit from all over Ultramar.
Exactly.
And the Ultramar segmentum is the biggest segmentum.
Yeah, the race thing on that is so easy just to be
they're not
of course they were always there. They genuinely were, because
but they're not going to turn down that aspirant if he's the top one because of the colour of his skin.
No. Again, previously, who doesn't care?
Yeah.
You are human, and that's it.
You are genetically a human with no mutation. You are not corrupted by chaos or Xenos in any way.
Yeah.
Do you survive apotheosis? They are the questions they ask.
Yeah.
They don't care where you were born. The Imperial Fists don't even have a recruitment thing. People migrate from places to the Imperial Fist.
Stations. There's one on Necromunda.
Yeah, but what's his face? The current chapter master wasn't even
Vladimir
born on.
Pugh.
What?
Vladimir
No,
Pugh.
first captain then.
Lysander.
Yeah. He wasn't born on Terra. He was likely born on a ship.
They tend to have because the Imperial they come from everywhere.
They come from all over. So of course they're not all going to look the same. Like, the salamanders are because
I think that's the thing. I think
planet.
it makes logical sense, and it's one of those things that you can say, yeah, they've always been there under the helmet, and everything. And also, when you read a story, it's really easy. It doesn't matter what their name is because they change their names when there's process.
Yeah, because they have war names, Pete.
And I think.
So
don't.
In the War of the Beast, it turns out that the Imperial Fists aren't just called John and Tom and Pete or whatever. Oh. They give up that and they have a wall name.
These are the survivors of the thing, the palace, because apparently, the fighting was so terrible.
They all got wall names.
Like, because the first book is called I Am Slaughter, because he's called Slaughter.
He's called Slaughter.
That's his wall name. And, I was like,
and it's awful. One more reason to avoid the War of the Beast at all costs. It was terrible. But this is the Tolkien thing again, though, with the elf that was in the Rings of Power, where there was this uproar that he was black, he was a person of colour, and its wife was a dwarf of colour, and. If you go through, if you read Tolkien, and I've read a lot of Tolkien's work, like. The amount of times he describes skin colour can be attested to, I think, like 3 different women.
Yeah.
Like Arwen, Eowyn, and somebody else's wife.
That's also like just how many women are in
Yeah, right? Oh no, and Galadriel, sorry.
Yeah, because like the entirety of the female cast of Lord of the Rings.
Cast have all got Lord of the Rings.
Apart from Lobelia Sackville Baggins.
Yeah, and then And then, I think it's Eomer might have it because he's golden-haired.
Yeah.
And the Rohirrim are technically referred to. So you would imagine that the Rohirrim being referenced as golden-haired would be more Caucasian because you don't get many.
Well, they're supposed to be like Saxons with horses, aren't they? That's the whole thing.
You would imagine that the Rohirrim probably not so much, but at no point does it say that the elf from one side of the country definitely is white, and maybe at the other side, we don't talk about those ones because they might have a different skin color. It's like Tolkien never fucking said that. You can't turn around to me and say this isn't canon that elf is fucking black because Tolkien never said it. Get the fuck out. He was terrible at that. He was awful at singing. He was awful at poetry. He was great at describing bushes. And his story was fantastic.
And he was great at coming up with new languages.
New languages. He invented all these new languages.
That's his whole thing.
Yeah, but do you know what he didn't do? He didn't describe every single elf in the history of Elven Kingdoms as white or black. Fuck off. That actor was great. He did a fantastic job. He made a great elf. The dwarf, exactly the same. She was a wonderful actress.
Oh,
she
she's
did
amazing.
a wonderful job of the character. You got the distinct impression she was a dwarf's wife.
Yeah.
You're staying for dinner.
I think
he's not staying for dinner.
He's staying for dinner.
I think the thing is with that...
Fuck off.
I think a lot of people, with that specifically, is when people think of fantasy...
Yes.
What they picture is medieval...
England.
Where everyone is white and and all that sort of stuff. It's like that's part of it. So when we think of traditional fantasy, that is what people think of. Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of this comes from. And there's arguments to be made, like I said, you could make the scientific arguments, like for example, about the dwarves, is they all live underground. Yeah. You could argue that there couldn't be any black dwarves underground, because of like the melanin levels, etc. But then you could also magic is also a thing.
Yeah,
but it's not deep dwarves or whatever you want to call.
It's not just that though either, because dwarves that spend most of their time underground probably. But in the realms of Tolkien, they didn't all do that.
I suppose so they could be from the tribes of the
like it's the same with hobbits, right? There are hobbits from all over, and when Lenny Henry was a hobbit, they were like black hobbits. I was like. Did you read the bit at the beginning of Lord of the Rings where they described how hobbits came about in different things from different places? What is wrong with you? Also, Lenny Henry's amazing. I'm from Dudley. Yeah. Because he talks like this.
Yes.
I've got something else to say on the whole topic. I think that in 40k as well, I'm jumping back to 40k now.
That's fine. We're allowed to do that.
They've put into place certain rules of how the society works.
Yes.
And of how you become a certain thing.
Yeah.
And I have no issue with them changing the rules. If they're changing the rules,
Again.
change the rules.
Yes.
Obligatory Devastation of Baal reference.
Yes.
That's literally what happens.
Yeah.
Is at the end, I cannot remember his character's name, is because there's the water seller, isn't there?
Yes, the
Luigi and
the
his
water-
son.
Yes.
Who went to the trials and basically got brain damage and came back.
Yeah.
And then in Darkness in the Blood, he's in a full-fledged race because they take him and go, oh yeah, we took your son. And
Well,
we can take him now because the new Primaris right allows us to take like certain lower qualities.
Yeah.
Now that could have been a window to be like, yeah, we can now accept people doing things. But we've also have the law that said, like I said, they decided not to change things at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
So
there was an open window there to say.
Yeah,
we
because
changed
in
things.
that instance, that's really cool because that kid gets to live out his dream of being a blood angel.
Yes.
And that's really awesome. But if you're gonna change the rules, change the rules. Don't do it in a little text box, in a codex.
Yeah.
And then a Facebook post.
Yeah.
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 And don't say, "Oh, they've always been there." No, change the rules.
So the problem
in a
is- the
way
problem
that
is
you
that-
are going to stick by.
The other thing I have is that the problem with it is, and it's the reason why it's difficult to add things into like designs and stuff into 40k, is because the whole point about it is it's a stagnant
Yes.
existence. So the reason why the rules don't like this is why the whole Belisarius Call thing and Primaris Marines was such a huge thing and moving the timeline on, because it was like, holy shit, things have changed. Like we've got all these new designs, all these new things because it is new, and that is almost heresy. And the problem is because the things have always been the way they are. When you try and shoehorn in something like they've just done, it's incredibly hard to retcon it into something.
Yeah.
Like it's and again, the difference being is the difference between like the same. I was going to mention this, but the difference between the race and the gender thing is that when someone says he in a book, you picture a male.
Yes.
But depending on who you are, you might picture that person. Unless they're described specifically, you could picture that as anybody.
Yes, it did.
So saying that, yes, that black people and Asian people and all these like ethnicities have always been Space Marines or whatever is easy to subscribe because it makes sense.
It just says he.
It just says he.
Yep.
They're not always described as exactly. Some of them are white, some of them are not.
Yeah.
But the problem is because you've given them that sign pronoun.
Yes.
We assume that it's very hard to go back and be like, oh, but they were because you haven't mentioned she in this context before.
Yeah. You've got like 25.
And like I said, you had that line. You had the line in the previous codex that said they are the noble sons of like the sons of noble houses.
Yeah.
It's like you've made these.
You could have put that line as the children of noble houses.
Yeah.
You could have previously referenced the children of.
And I know
and then that would have, even that one thing would have left open the door. But if you go, I think it's worth just very quickly, for people who aren't too sure how this works, and this comes up quite a lot. So the reason why the Belisarius Call thing caused so much indignation was because the Adeptus Mechanicus do not invent things. The reason they don't invent things is something that a lot of people don't know or get wrong. During the golden age of technology, it is believed by the Adeptus Mechanicus that those people made the best thing they can possibly make.
Yes.
So, with that in mind, they continue to make that thing and search for the STC construct.
Because they lost a lot of that technology.
Because a lot of that technology
So
went
rather
away.
than trying to invent their way back to it, they're just trying to find it.
Yes.
Why you can't improve on perfection.
You can't improve on perfection, and that is why they don't do it because of some like antiquated belief. They believe that in the golden age of technology, they invented the best butter knife. So we have a butter knife. We're not going to improve on this butter knife. But if we find an STC with a better butter knife, we will use that one.
Yes.
But we aren't going to tamper with this one. So when Belisarius Call turned up with the Zarquazitar, full of these new technologies, the entirety of the Adeptus Mechanicus should have gone, no.
Well, again, it's another version of like them just dropping in this. Because I remember at the time they were like, "Oh yeah, by the way, this new triumvirate box is going to have Celestine, it's going to have this, and a character from 30K," and everyone was like, "Who the fuck could that be?"
Yeah.
And it was like, "And it's Belisarius Cawl," and everyone went, "Who the fuck is that?"
Yep.
And they had this big thing, and they had to retcon their own retcon.
Yep.
Because they had to
multiple times. I think
they went. Oh yeah, Belisarius Cawl. He did all this stuff. He basically did it on Mars. He did it years ago, and then he's been fucking around doing other things since. And it was like that makes no sense in terms of logical story because everyone on Mars is spying on everyone else. All the Magos is a thing, and if he's that like out there and he's thinking, he's going to get a lot of spying on. So he would never be able to keep a vault of like thousands of Space Marines,
tens of thousands of
Marines, just hidden away for no reason. Like. The book, The Great Work, does a really good job of flicking back because they started shoehorning him into like the heresy to prove that he'd always been there and stuff like that. He just kept popping up, and it was like he really felt like the B story. He's just like, "Hey, I'm also here to prove that I exist." And The Great Work did a really good job of kind of filling in why he's capable of doing what he's doing as well. Yeah. Like, and I won't go into it here, but the point being is that was a retcon of his original story, and I'm basically saying that he actually did it on a massive. Arc Mechanicus that was out in the middle of nowhere so that no one could find him because obviously the Mechanicus would be not very happy with him. He was improving, not only was he improving, making new things, but he was trying to improve upon the Omnissiah's specific work.
Yep.
So,
which is bad.
Yeah,
like really
very
bad.
heretical.
Yeah, it's like he was already borderline like techno heretic anyway.
Yeah,
and that pushed him well over the line to getting every Arc Mechanicus ship blowing him up, basically.
Yeah,
and causing
another
civil war on Mars.
Exactly.
Essentially. Like, and they had to retcon it, otherwise.
So, and that's the thing. Like, and I think the first attempt felt very ham-fisted. Yep. It felt like, hey, we're dropping this character in who's like the Deus Ex Machina of why Gilliman's back, why all these guys are new, blah blah blah. And it was shit, and it felt very like, but there's holes in it.
Yeah.
Like, and there were simple holes. Like I said, the whole thing about it. Oh, you did it on Mars. No. Have him do it on a fucking arse end of nowhere planet.
Yeah.
Or an Arc Mechanicus.
Or there are plenty of planets he can do it on.
Somewhat secretive. It's like it's a similar thing to when they did the Colexus Temple.
Yeah.
Like that was one of my favourite little sides for the assassins was they were like, so the Colexus assassins are all blanks as well.
Yes.
And
male blanks specifically.
No, they're not. They're both.
Are they both now?
They've always been both.
Are you sure? Which one's the only men then?
It tends to be Eversors.
Is it Eversors?
But because again, they were frothing Nutter Berserker.
Oh, okay. I thought the blanks one were all men.
No. Because
I thought they kept the other ones.
No, because in Nemesis, the Colexus she's a clone, in fact, as well.
Because I always thought they sent the other ones off to the sisters and the.
They get diverted.
Yeah.
But anyway, the Colexus one things they brought loads of blanks to Terra to the fortress, like the Assassin were a fortress thing. It was either in space or it was on Luna. But they got so many of them, it was starting to block out the Astronomicus. So they were like, no, monk off. So the main Collector's Temple now is literally out in the arse end of nowhere, so it can't fuck up with the Astronomicus. And it's a similar thing there. Like, that's the thing. They fixed that, and I think they did it in a much better way because, like I said, you can get from A to B in the lore, I think, really easily.
Oh yeah.
But sometimes I think it takes a little bit more time than just being like.
Well, I think all that's needed in this case is a short story.
Yeah.
A short story would have done this so much better. A short story that just goes, hey, this group of AdMech are out here doing their thing, and oh look, they found a new STC. And they put it in the machine, and what happens?
Well, I think...
And out comes this thing, and then they go, aha! This now means that we have a great... We can have additionally greater pool of people to choose from.
I think the thing is, about
anything that isn't...
Well, no, because I think a better short story, I can just think of it on my head, would be, right, you've got, like, the various children of a noble house on Terra, right? And they're all, like, they're doing some trials or whatever it might be, and they're being tested by the various administratum things. And it's like, you write the story in such a way that it looks like, number one son, big, beefy, whatever, fucking guy, big, strong dude, amazing hunter, whatever it is. He looks like he's, like, like there's some representatives of the just Terra, and you're like, he's going to be off and be a custodian, she's going to go off and do a thing. And then you have the twist at the end. Well, the twist at the end is, no, we picked her.
Yeah.
Not him.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? It's like, no, because whilst he has this, this, and this, what we're looking for is this, this, and this in terms of personality, not in terms of we can give you physical strength. It's the whole Captain America thing. We can give you strength.
Yeah, we can give you the strength part. We do that for you. You could be this like Dante, like prime example.
Yeah.
He was significantly too small for his age, malnutrition, dehydration, like bathed in chemical radiation, and now is the oldest living space marine.
Yeah.
Like, they can give you the physical attributes when you get through it.
Yeah.
It's having enough of the physical attributes combined with the mental attributes, not only to like get to that point, but also the physical attributes to survive the change. Yeah. Like, that's why it's usually men, because women don't survive it as much.
There we go, Games Workshop. We've given you 2 short stories there.
Like, endless ways this would have been better.
And I think the surprise then, I think it's more the surprise of, oh, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, and I said it changes. It says like, no, we're not just looking for these big beefy men.
Yeah.
Because we have every custodian is crafted individually.
Yes.
But again, that changes the rules that we've been previously exposed to.
Yeah.
So essentially, the change, the spoiler, I don't necessarily dislike in and of itself. What I don't like is how it's been shoehorned in when all you needed to do was do something that changes the rules.
Do you not think it's also a little bit like sort of almost, or what do they call it? Where it's like, you know, you could have done this properly. You could have gone out of your way to have the first, acknowledged almost is not the right word, but the first female custodian, right? Which is essentially what she is.
Yeah.
Because we've never seen them before. Like, as much as they might say they've been off camera the whole time. Well, you've had plenty of time to put them on fucking camera before now, because you've had a novel series. And
even
like,
they pop up all the time in like a lot of stories, and the ones that always pop up are always men.
Yeah. So, do you not think that one paragraph in a Facebook post does a disservice to, like, women in general, as to the actual significance of what this change is? Because change is never, it's not always bad. Me and you both don't like change.
No.
But change isn't bad. But this is almost like we could have done it properly.
Yeah.
We could have made it a big deal.
Yeah, but we couldn't be bothered.
But we couldn't actually be arsed.
Again, I feel like they missed the boat.
Yeah, like
again, the simplest way of doing it would have been like several years ago when we were mid-Horus Heresy.
Yeah.
And I know that from the sound of it, it sounded like people wanted to do it then.
Yeah.
And again, that would have been fine if you'd started dropping in that custodians were male and female when we were learning about custodians. Anyway.
Yeah, because we hadn't got them.
We hadn't got them before.
And that wasn't that long ago, right?
No,
like in the grand scheme
like
of like
2015, 2016.
Yeah, it's not that long ago in the grand scheme.
No, it's not. So we could have dropped that in then.
Yeah.
So now, like I said, it's the just off screen nature. That bothers me. Yeah. And I said, like, the problem with Games Workshop, like with its law and the way it's structured, is that things don't change, like you said.
Yeah.
But there are still get out of jail free cards.
There are. And this is not fucking.
And I genuinely believe it's like, so several years ago, like the thing is, there used to be the high IP overlord for GW, Alan Merritt. Now he had a lot of flaws. Like from what I remember from like meeting the guy and from various people and whatever, but I feel like having that one voice steering the ship is,
as long as he's the right voice. Yes.
It is. I feel like they need a benevolent dictator like that because, like, I'd love to. You know, I think it's great that people come up with new ideas. Like they should be able to come to something like that and go, okay, I want to make this thing a thing in 40K. You'd be like, cool, okay then. How do you want to propose getting that thing into this universe?
Yeah.
And they sit down and have a proper discussion about it, rather than just being a throwaway. Oh, we should just throw this in. Yeah, we could do that. We could just throw that in the thing. Yeah. No, it should be a case of, okay, how are you going to do that? And how are you going to satisfy? Because like, if we need somebody like myself who knows the law. I wouldn't say completely, but like incredibly well.
Apparently better than a lot of other people.
And I would just be like. We need somebody like myself who's just like willing to accept change, but also wants to go, like I say, he knows the rules of the system.
Yeah.
And goes, okay, well that makes sense. If you can make it make sense to me, then Well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Brilliant.
Fantastic.
Go for it. Yeah. We'll happily have this in.
Well, it's like I've always said. I like you like the Sanguinius that sits in the background and is just out of reach.
Yeah.
I personally would like to see Sanguinius return.
Yeah.
I would despise for him to come back in just like a throwaway
Deus Ex Machina.
Moment.
Because the thing was, it was a similar thing with Gilliman, right? Like Gilliman's return, they kind of were like, oh yeah, we can fix him now.
Yeah.
Like, and it was almost, I felt like because the whole thing was always that his wound looks like it's healing.
Yes.
And I like that, and then maybe using some esoteric, like Eldar magic and whatnot, and the power of innate. That kind of it did feel a little bit, but it also felt a bit rushed at the time.
Yeah.
Again with the Lion kind of makes sense. His mysterious return and him not even knowing why he's back fits his character and his story.
Yeah.
Like, why now?
Yeah.
Like, and how, like, he literally doesn't know when he comes back, he doesn't even know who he is.
Yeah.
And I think that works for him. But yeah, like so, it's like you can do all sorts of things.
You can change loads. Like, I love which I've
we could redeem fallen Primarchs.
You
all
can.
Of these things. If you really want
especially my mate Magnus, I think he would.
He had his chance.
He had his chance. Damn it! But if you think about like we've discussed before, and I think on the podcast when we did the questions and answers with the female Space Marines, entertainingly enough, if you had a female Primaris Space Marine, it would be impossible for you to tell.
Oh yeah.
The difference between a male Primaris Space Marine and a female Primaris Space Marine, because you're not getting boob armor at all. Because
the apotheosis wouldn't grow them. So
you're not.
The whole point is I think they're just about.
It's barely puberty. After puberty, it's hard to get it done.
Yeah.
So you ain't getting long blonde hair. You're not getting shapely hips. You're not getting big tits.
No.
You're not getting any. What you're getting is what you see as a Primaris Space Marine with the helmet on, because they're not moulding anybody for any other physical attribute than to kill as many of the enemy as they can before they die.
Yeah.
Because Space Marines don't retire.
No.
They live, they are a Space Marine, and they die. And that is it. There's no glorious...
Sometimes they end up in an angry box.
Sometimes in an angry box. But that is torture.
Yeah.
Like, I would rather die.
Yeah.
Like, having heard what they go through to be in a dreadnought.
Although I understand their need for sleep, I have to say. Like, I get dreadnought.
A
few times in the morning I'm like, put me back in the sleep.
Yeah. But to be a Space Marine... like agent, like the vast majority of the thousands of them that exist. Then nobody knows their name. Nobody knows where they're from. They serve for X amount of time and they die in any kind of backwater place at the hands of any kind of random enemy, and they are forgotten about by everybody that isn't in their company at the time.
Yeah.
There is no glory in being a Space Marine. Unless you are perhaps like Dante and people like that. But even then, you only have to read any book with Dante in it to know that he is not living a glorious, happy life.
No.
You know? Like, up until like his apotheosis and his, like, into being a Primaris Marine, he would have happily died at any point.
Yes.
Like, so you're not going to get, with a female Primaris Space Marine, hips... boob armor, you're gonna get what you're looking at right now.
Even in the face structure, there'd be, because they always talk about Space Marines having this weird flattened space. So you'd see sort of slightly effeminate lines,
but that'd be it.
But that would
and that's only with the helmet off, because chances are there's no hair. Most Space Marines don't have hair; they're shaved.
Or even if they do, they're gonna have it short because it's functional.
Real super short because they have things plugging into their head for their armor to work.
Also, it's as someone with long hair, it is not helpful to have like a helmet on with long hair.
No,
because it swishes around and it gets.
This is what it's a battle. The only ones who wear helmets are Celestians. They get promoted. They must cut their hair.
But if you only have to look at like Viking shield maidens, shield warriors, shield maidens. That was right.
Yeah.
Like Lagertha were from Vikings. When she goes into battle, her hair is tightly braided to her head. She's not going to cut it because she still wants to go out to party on a Saturday night. Yeah. But it's tightly fucking braided to her head and back in
we
the
look
thing.
at any of the MMA fighters.
Yeah.
You look at any of the MMA fighters that when they're in the octagon, They might have long, wonderful, luscious locks.
It's-
As soon as you see them, they're all like in real
tight
Tight
braid, like
braids.
super
Really
tight, like it, the kind of thing you look at and go, I bet that took hours and hurt like a bastard.
Yeah.
Like,
Even wrestling though.
a lot of the wrestlers.
Who's that?
Oh,
wrestler
Bianca Belair.
Oh god.
The
Yeah.
hair that she uses as a whip.
That looks like it hurts.
Because, I can see her looking gorgeous with her hair out, but at the end of the day, when she is in the ring and she is fighting, that hair can be used as a weapon.
Yeah. But you're not getting, because I wouldn't mind female Space Marines, you know that, I don't really care, provided it's done right.
Yeah.
I would like, but more than that...
But again, I feel like they would have to specifically change the rules and
Yeah.
say, hey, we've come up with a new thing. Belisarius Cawl can be like, hey, we're gonna
do this now.
If you really want to, then do it.
Yeah.
But like I said, the way you've written the rules and the way you've you've set it up and all that sort of stuff is, and again, I feel like also from a story, I think it's good for a story perspective.
Yeah, definitely.
Personally, I think they've added diversity in all the places that feel right. Like, we accept that almost every other race in 40k has female representation.
Yes.
Because again, most people don't care.
Yep.
There's some ways more overwhelming. So for example, the witch cults that tend to be I remember Jez Goodwin saying that the witch cult, if you take the 10-man witch cult box and the 10-man Cabalite box, the witch cult box is 60% women, 40% men, and the Cabalite warriors is 40% women and 60% men.
Yeah.
Like, the whole point is they're completely interchangeable.
Yeah.
Same with the Eldar. It doesn't matter what you are. The Howling Banshees tend to be women.
Yeah.
For example, but it's the only one. The only aspect where they're they kind of are women. All the others, just whoever.
And again, I think it's important to note that when you put the model together on the battlefield, you can't specifically always tell the different genders of the models.
With the Eldar,
That's
can because they specifically have, really form-fitting armor.
Yeah, but it's important to note that style, substance, and showing off the way your curves work is not the most important thing on the battlefield in the 42nd millennium.
Unless you're Lilith
Hesperex. That is, but she is Lilith Hesperex, to be fair. She's entitled to show off.
That's her whole thing.
Yeah.
The reason why she is practically naked is because she's look, you can't even cut me. I have no scars.
Yeah.
Because I'm that.
I am
good.
so flawless.
Yeah, because you cannot touch me.
You cannot touch me. Yeah. Which, if you're going to have a character that you want to be in essentially a bikini with swords and long hair, and she has the attitude, her attitude is, I'm going to expose as much as myself as possible to you. And you are not going to be able to cut me because I am flawless. She takes the attitude of try.
Yeah.
And everybody that tries dies.
Yeah.
And she is still flawless.
Yeah.
That, I think, is a great character. If you took that into an entire faction, I would not like that.
No.
But for Lilith Hesperex, specifically, I think it's great. Yeah. Because you've got the polar opposite of that with Lucius the Eternal.
Yeah, where he's like, oh, I died. Oh, wait, now I'm you.
Yeah, I'm new. But every time you don't scar me, I kill you and you don't hit me, I'm going to cut myself.
Yeah.
So I am scarred, but by my own hand because you can't cut me. So you've got these two characters that are fantastically written with completely polar opposite ways of looking at being undefeated in battle.
And I think, again, the gender matters there.
Yeah.
I think Lilith Hesperex works better as a female character.
Definitely, yeah.
And you could argue that it's a fan service character and all that, that she's mostly naked and but I think it works better. You underestimate someone like her because she looks like this bikini model, Victoria's swimsuit, Victoria's Secret model, pretty much wearing that kind of thing, and she's just holding just two knives. Because she doesn't even have super amazing weaponry. She has two knives. And I think that's what makes her character more awesome. It wouldn't work. I don't think it would work if it was a dude in a man king.
Well, Viva La Dirt League have done an amazing episode on female armor.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And literally just it's what do you mean I'm wearing a bikini? Well, the logic behind it is that all the blokes that you meet and that are going to try to attack you are so stunned because you're a female and you're showing off all your assets that they get distracted and they can't aim for their life.
So the one I like about the similar one of that they've done a bunch of them now, and one of them is where they've brought in equality to their armor, right? So they brought in all the armor for male characters and female characters is now the same.
Yeah.
So obviously the female character goes, breastplate, please, and he hands her the chainmail bikini.
Yeah.
And she's like, what is this? I'm like, I was told we had equality in armour. When the dude comes up and he goes, breastplate, please, and he hands him the same one. Yeah. And because it's the guy who plays Rowan, I think it might be his actual name, because it's the guy who plays Rowan, in the next shot he's wearing it, doing this thing, and he's like, why aren't you putting yours on? Yes. He's like, off you go, and I'm like, that is brilliant. But yeah, I think a lot of what we've covered is mostly we are fine with them doing just about anything as long as it makes sense and it's well written.
It's the thing that makes like good universes good.
Yeah.
For me, is the rules. It's the same thing I have with like it's like hard and soft sci-fi, like hard and soft magic systems.
Yes.
It makes for much better storytelling if you know the rules of a situation from as the reader's perspective. So, like, I always use Star Trek as a good example. It's like, everybody knows that you can't teleport through shields.
Yes.
And that you can't fire photon torpedoes through shields.
Yes.
So, if you see, like, we've got our captain's trapped on the ship and they've raised shields, you're like, oh no, we can't just get them back with the transporter. Yeah. We're going to have to figure out a way to get through the shields. Like, you know that as the viewer stroke reader, whatever it is. And, like, that's great because when they come up with a fix, same with the cloak. Like I think Undiscovered Country is fantastic for that. With like the cloaked bird of prey, they're like, you can't normally fire under cloak, so it makes it such a oh my god, it's a super weapon basically.
Yeah.
And they have to try and come up with a fix. It's same with the best like magic systems. Gandalf's a great character, but man, does he pull magic out of his ass.
Yes, indeed.
And that's where he's got like a fucking rationing thing going on. Because he's like, there are so many times where you're like, can you not do the thing? And he's like, well, no. And then there are times where he's like, hang on, lads, let me just fuck up this Balrog, you know, with this spell.
So, I can actually explain that, but it takes a long time, and the film's never helped my
But the point being is, it is a soft... Lord of the Rings has a soft magic system.
Yes.
As in, people do magic... It's rare, it's kind of thing, and it kind of fits whatever the plot needs at the moment, right? Whereas, like, hard magic systems, as I think are always much better.
So Harry Potter's a prime example of this,
Yeah.
right? So, for example, there's a scene in the Deathly Hallows where Hermione breaks Harry's wand. Now, it puts them as two people capable of doing magic, requiring a wand, and only having one wand. So it's a moment in it where you're like, not only is it like a wand has gone, you can't just pick up someone else's. It's already in the franchise that every wizard, the wand chooses a wizard. Yeah. Very important all the way through. So
and if you use someone else's wand, it's not going to work anywhere near as well for you as your own wand.
So when the lead character's wand specifically is broken. In the run-up to the final battle, how is he going to face the big bad guy without a properly functioning wand? Yeah. And then, of course, later on you find out that it all gets fixed and it's not blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but the point being is, like, you know the rules at that point. And you're
all the way through from book one, all the way through to the end, it's explained that the wand chooses the wizard has control of the wand. If you can't use anyone else's wand, and then at the end his wand is broken. Yeah. And that's a big deal. Yeah. Now, it then gets fixed, and they have all this, the allegiance, if you win a wand from somebody thing.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, that is actually a plot hole, though.
Kind of.
Yeah. If you go deep, it's not written well enough to be like, actually, with the way... Because, it makes the Expelliarmus spell the most powerful spell in all of Harry Potter, because you can just be like, I've got it now, get wrecked.
Both of these are mine now,
but anyway, that's a whole other... That's the other side of hard magic systems, when the writer doesn't always think through the consequences.
In the series, it is very well explained throughout the whole thing that intention is also very important in how the magic works. So if you don't approach... the spell with the right intentions, then
it's one of them things. But like I said, if you take it at like how I described it from the beginning, the one chooses the way, blah blah blah, and then the one breaks. Oh my god, Lord of the Rings, not so much. None of that. You can just maybe have magic at this point, or maybe not. Depends.
Summon a massive glowing sun to like blind everybody.
Or
I'm just going to talk to this butterfly. Yeah, it's just kind of. But I think that's the thing. When it comes down to is that the best systems, the longest lasting universes and like fantasy and sci-fi realms have rules.
Yeah. And we're not talking about tabletop battlefield.
No.
We're talking about in-world universe
and setup and systems of government and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you have the longer something goes on, the more and if it depends again. I think the thing is, Games Workshop's universe in and of itself has its own problem in that it is supposed to be stagnant.
Yes.
That's why when it comes to Tau, I remember a friend of mine getting really upset because he's like, "Oh, in the new codex we've got this this new Riptide battlesuit, and they couldn't make battlesuits that big because of such and such." And I'm like, "Yeah, but with the Tau, that's not a limitation.
No.
Because the Tau, the whole thing about it is they're constantly making new things and new technology and new stuff. So yeah, every time they do an expansion, we're going to see new stuff. They make sense because from their lore perspective, everything is new. Like they were like, we've made this new thing. We used to not be able to make battlesuits this big, but we can with this new Nova reactor. It's amazing. We can put it in this. Yep. So they work really well because of this upstart race that hasn't got anywhere near the level of power of anybody else, but their one thing they do have is they're relentlessly moving forward with their technology. Yeah. Same with the Tyranids, right? The Tyranids can always have new stuff because they're always like, well, we need a thing that does this thing.
Yeah.
So we're going.
What did we eat recently that might help us?
Yeah, maybe if we gave this thing a slightly bigger head, maybe it'll work
better.
Yeah. So again, they totally work. Necrons. You can have the whole thing of the more powerful they've awoken.
Yeah, well, that's actually in lore, right? Only bits of the Necron Empire has awoken, and
So they're still stuff hidden in various dimensional rifts and things like that are completely new. Yeah. But when it comes to things like the Imperium, the whole point about the Imperium is unless you have the magic STC wand. Yep. That goes because that was always be the thing. It was like when they would introduce a new variant of a tank, it was like the Bile Predator. Yeah, they're like, yeah, we found this, and the mechanic is like, can we have it? And they're like, no,
get off.
Whereas something like the Crusader started off a bit like that. The Land of the Crusader was a Black Templars only thing, and then they kind of were like, yeah, but can we not everyone have it? And they were like, yeah, okay then.
All right then, yeah. But they have the magic in the system of STCs.
Yes, there are,
but I think with this one in particular. Because this is, I think, it's very relevant to everybody in the world anyway. Yeah. That representation is important.
It is.
And although in the past Games Workshop has never said we don't want women or people of colour, they haven't really provided them with a reason to want to.
No.
More recently, much to their credit, they are now providing things that would interest people to come and play the game that aren't just white men, which is important because when you read a book, and let's say for example you read a book and all the characters and you're like, wow, these characters are great, I want to do these characters. Yeah. And then you go to the shop and they're like, no, you can have a box full of dudes.
Yeah.
That's shit.
Yes.
So they're not going to convert from cool book to cool game. Because they get to go to play the game and go, I would like this army, and you can't do it. Mm. And I think that is where Games Workshop's biggest flaw lies. Is, yes, you've got cool characters in your novels. Yes, you've got cool armies in your novels. Where is that representation on the battlefield of the game? Yeah. And they are too slow. If you're going to announce female custodians in any way, the next fucking thing you should have on the shelf are fucking female custodians. Yeah. And I bet they don't. No. At which point, that's just lip service to all the people.
That's the point, whereas Cadian, again, the whole Minkalesque Severina Rain thing, they brought miniatures out for both those characters. Yeah. The new Cadian range has both male and female models on it. They've been making strides to include them. Now we've got the space on frames and stuff. Yeah. And the designs are better. We can make them look
because previously it was honestly too
they were
expensive.
and also, they were just like the old Canadians. They were really chunky, and they would have looked really weird with female heads on.
Yeah, they would. Yeah,
like they would have just looked weird. Like
Yeah.
it would have looked like you'd taken a head and put it on that,
Yeah.
and that's the point, right? It's the same with the diversity issue with the like skin color thing. It was like, yeah, you could say that salamanders were black skinned with coal black skin with red eyes, but whenever you saw them painted in things, it always looked weird.
Yeah.
Like it always looked weird, and now it's like okay, now it's fine.
It works better now.
Yeah. And I think like the thing with inclusive, like Marvel did I felt like Marvel cocked it up a few years ago in their comics when they tried to sort of it was a sudden force of diversity.
Yeah.
Where Iron Man became Riri Williams, Sam Wilson became Captain America, Jane Foster became Thor. Which really bugged me because Thor's his fucking name and not his title.
Yep. He was actually, born with that name.
X-23 became Wolverine, and like all of these things, like they just shuffled off those characters and were like replacing them with all these. They were all like they're big to be like when especially with Thor, they're like, oh, she's not Thorina, she's not like
she's
Thor-esque, she's Thor, and I'm like, fucking no, like it makes no fucking sense. Also, why isn't it Sif? And why isn't Sif now just Sif, the goddess of thunder?
Yeah.
Like right, and that was the point that I had was like, you have a stable of characters, right? You have several characters from various different backgrounds and things like that. Like, the same thing with Iron Man, right? You want an Iron Man to be black? Make it James Rhodes. Him taking over the Iron Man persona rather than the War Machine persona. It's right fucking there.
Yep.
Like, Sam Wilson taking over the Captain America thing was easy. That makes sense. They've been friends for a long time. Captain America is a mantle. There have been loads of different Captain Americas.
Yes.
It didn't also help that Marvel doesn't have a mantle thing.
No.
Like DC does.
Yeah.
And it really felt like at the time that it was forced. They were like, we're taking all your favourite characters and we're turning them into these people.
Yeah.
And they also focused a lot of the books around that aspect of their character. Right? So like...
Yes.
So like, Thor was all about like the fact that she is a woman. Like, the whole stories are all about her being a woman. Which is fine, but it's not going to make me read their stories.
No.
It's going to turn me off. Whereas if I'm reading a really good story that also happens to like tell a good story... and also makes me think, oh wow, she's had to overcome some extra thing because she was a woman.
Yeah.
Then that's a good story.
Yeah, well, it's like the Ghostbusters movie, the all-female Ghostbusters movie, right? I had no issue with it being an all-female cast.
No, I didn't. I just had an issue with it being
just
a bad
shit
movie.
Yeah. But you were hard pressed to say I didn't like the new Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
It was like because they're all female. No, because it's bloody awful.
Yeah.
Like you can have an all-female. You can have an all anything. And as long as it's good, I will happily watch it. Yeah. But if you're going to ham-fist it up, half-ass it, surprise, they've been here all the time fuck, I'm not going to believe you.
Yeah, like I said with the Marvel thing, I said the thing that they should have done at the time was, which they'd done before, was promote second-tier characters.
Yes.
So like Iron Man was always I didn't realise this because I've always been a huge Iron Man fan, but I didn't realise that Iron Man was like quite a not very popular character.
Oh no, I know it took...
And it wasn't until Civil War...
Yes.
That people were like, oh man, Tony Stark's awesome, he's great, and then that's kind of what promoted, and obviously the movies and so on and so on. So why rather than making Iron Man like a black girl or making Jane Foster thing, why not take your secondary characters
and promote them?
Why not have a big crossover event where Black Panther is the main story focus, or Storm, or any of the other, like I don't like Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Any of these people you could have promoted to a higher tier spot and written a good story that would have made people like focus on them as the leader, like as the Avengers or whatever.
Miss Marvel did a very good job.
Yeah. Miss Marvel was good.
I think
Kamala Khan.
In terms of inclusion, when you're talking about diversity, I think the two biggest successes in recent years is Miles Morales.
Yes.
And
the only
and Kamala Khan, because again they
didn't try to be the original character. They were themselves.
Yes.
And took up a mantle.
Yes.
Almost.
But without forcing the other character away.
Yes.
And importantly,
because Kamala Khan's thing, the reason she calls herself Miss Marvel is because she's a massive fan of Captain Marvel.
Exactly. And it works. And so with and the fact that it happened in the Ultimate Universe with Miles Morales to start with was great because we still had Peter Parker. For those of us who love Peter Parker, we still had Peter Parker in the 616. And I said, and they've become massive successes because, again, whilst their stories are great for people with inclusion, they aren't focused purely around the fact that they are like that she is a Muslim girl, or
so
that he is a Latino black mix. So, those are the best stories. Include that as part of the character, but don't make it all about it.
No,
it's the same as why I think a lot of people don't like sort of female comics. When it comes to stand-up comedy, it's like the kind of female comics that are always talking about periods and stuff like that. It's like, that's great, and while it might get a laugh from the women in the audience, the guys are like, I have no
context to this.
Whereas male comics, like, a lot of time they talk about being men, they talk about being stupid, which is usually how we are viewed from the outside. So we can
relate to that.
We can relate to it, and women can go, that husband's a twat too.
But no, I think that
it's a difficult inclusion. Coming back to it, I think inclusion and diversity is important. Like you say, to bring more people in. But it needs to be handled in a sensitive way that doesn't just alienate your. Because I think this is the biggest issue I have with all of these controversies, and especially this one, is I am automatically viewed as the bad guy because I disagree with it.
Yeah.
The people try the things like this. They get away with the cheap way of adding this into the law. Because their excuse is, well, if you don't like it, then you're a bigot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I don't like it because it's badly done.
Yeah.
And I think that's the issue. We've got to stop just using it in defence of, well, you must not like diversity or whatever. It's like, no, I'm completely on board with it, but I also feel like you don't have to put diversity into everything.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I feel like Space Marines work better as a brotherhood.
Yes.
From a story point of view. But I also feel like you could really much more push.
But I think you can overdo diversity in that way and make it feel forced as well.
Well, that's what
the Space Marines are great as a diversity, but then you as a racial diversity, but a fraternity.
Yes.
And then you've got your Sisters of Battle, who are great as a sorority.
Yeah, and also racially diverse.
But also racially diverse.
Yeah. And also write them better.
Yeah.
Do them better.
Yes.
Update their ranges. If you are dedicated to it, Games Workshop, which you're not going to listen to this because I know you don't pay any attention, although they did leave the comments on that video I showed you.
What's that, sorry?
The comments on that video I showed you were on.
Oh dear.
Which is unusual for Games Workshop. They normally disable them. However, I would say everybody on this podcast is all about inclusion and diversity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Without any shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do it, Games Workshop, then actually do it. Don't just pay lip service to it by putting one chapter, one little shitty paragraph in a codex, and then forget about it. If you're going to have female custodians, if that's going to be a thing, then make the models.
Make it a big deal.
Make the models. Make it a big deal. Put them out there. Have it be important. Do something with it. Because otherwise, all it is a lip service to people that have fought for a very long time to be included in things.
Yeah.
I would also say...
your paragraph says that you're now included. Are you happy? Well, no, actually, because it's shit.
I would also say, if they are going to do this, and they are going to make a big deal out of it, make a big deal. Highlight the women that work in this industry as well. Do it. Do it properly. And acknowledge that us women in this industry, as well as every other industry, have had so many obstacles to overcome.
Yeah.
Where, I know from personal experience, I've been stood explaining a game, and some bloke has come up and taken over, and just kind of pushed me away, regardless of how much I know about the subject. And...
regardless of whether that bloke happens to work there or not.
Yes.
Yeah. In your own shop.
Yes.
The
fact that I've had to tell people to stop serving my customers in my shop when they don't work there is ridiculous. And I think if Games Workshop are going to do this inclusionary diversification and representation thing that they seem to want to do, don't do it half-assed.
Yeah.
Do bring awareness of women's issues. Create the law around women in the system. What issues are these female custodians facing?
What did she have to go through that must have been arduous to get to be a custodian?
Yeah.
Because it can't have been easy.
And you've got so many relatable characters that are men.
But I think I also feel like there's lots of like things you say about the struggles and stuff, but the thing is, 40k as a universe doesn't care.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Is the point I'm going to is like 40k as a universe has never cared itself about diversity. Like, they don't care that you're black, white, straight, gay, trans, male, female, whatever. You are a human being, and you fit. You're a cog in a machine, and they only care that you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it isn't almost about overcoming the struggles. It is just, like I said, it's more about them saying, okay, like I said, I think the story of having the son and the daughter thing, and then being like, we're taking the daughter.
Taking the daughter.
You're like, what? And you go, yeah, that's a much better way of introducing it, because he goes, yeah, because you're not what we're looking for.
Yeah.
You're like, what? You're like, yeah, that's not, like I said, it's the Captain America thing. We're not looking for the thing.
Within that story alone, you've got the fact that, like, because in the noble houses, and they are like almost medieval in the way they work,
but they still don't care about whether you're the firstborn son or firstborn daughter. Like that's always been clear in every story I've ever read in 40k. It's always been like, if you happen to be the firstborn, it doesn't matter whether you're a male or female. No. And I think it would work for the story if it was the firstborn son. Because it makes him like, oh, he's the firstborn, so he's the inheritor. Oh my god, if he went, it'd be amazing. Yeah. Or even if it was, I don't know, you can work both way around, whereas like she's expected to inherit.
Yes.
Actually, might probably be better, actually. Yeah. Like, have her be the firstborn daughter, and it's like, yeah, she's going through the things to see if they can be tested, but like the second kid, which is the man, they can take him because she's going to take over our lands and whatever, and they're like, no, we're taking him. And they're like, what? No.
Like, hang on a minute, we've just spent the last like
training her to be like,
training her to take over. We want that. Yeah.
And that's what we want. Yeah. And I think that's the thing. That's where we're thinking. It's more. Like I said, it's more about explaining the rules and changing the rules.
Yes.
In 40k, because like I said, the 40k universe doesn't care about any of these things.
No.
It never has, and it never will.
No, but I think the point is, just like the things that we love about Dante are the hurdles that he has to overcome and makes him who he is. Yeah. And makes us understand his character.
Yeah, I think
that's the same kind of character building.
So I
but I feel like they're not. The difference between, from my views, I feel like they're not. The trials wouldn't be any different just because you're a woman.
No,
absolutely not.
It's not like we have here where people are going to look down on you and go, well, we assume that you're not going to know anything because you're a woman.
Yeah.
It's more like, you can still have the same trials and tribulations, but they're not going to be specifically, you don't get extra ones because of ethnicity.
Yeah. What I think would be the most interesting part would be, because she is the firstborn, and we know that the custodians, we're going to go with the traditional thing that they take the male children because it's their sons. And she's like, well, I'm going to try out. And they're like, well, why? So, because I want to prove that I can do it just as well as he can. And they're like, okay, go for your trial, because we know that we're not going to take you. Yeah. So, because, they only take the male heirs. Like, so that's
happened for that. From our family. You say, we've only ever had men, and she's like, well, fuck you. And then well,
I want to go and try, because then I can say that I have passed it, even though I didn't go.
Yeah, and imagine what prestige I bring to our family.
Prestige to the family, and they're like, oh, okay, so 12-year-old daughter, which is probably how old they would be, roughly. Yeah. And he's like, okay, well, go on, you're pretty strong.
And then she gets beaten down by the son or whatever.
Yeah, and then you go off, you do the trials, and they get to the end of the trials, and she's like, well, there you go, father, I said I could do it, and I could, and then now we expect, younger brother to be off to the custodian, because he passed as well. Isn't it wonderful? When the custodian walks up and goes, congratulations, you're coming with us.
Yeah.
At which point, everybody in attendance goes, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
No, we're taking you. It was like, well, why? Well, because you've had all the training to run this planet. You've had all the training to do all this other stuff. You've had all this diplomatic training that we needed you to go through, all this strategy training that we needed you to go through, and you also passed most of that as well, so congratulations, you're a custodian. At which point everybody, and that, if that is the end of it, then you've got the perfect setup to the, oh my God, like, and off it goes from there. Yeah. And that's it. And then, Games Workshop, you release the model. Because people would buy that model of the first female custodian. First acknowledged female custodian. Yeah. That would sell. Yeah. When at the end of the day they're a business.
But I think it needs to be done as a novel.
Yeah.
It needs to be a big story.
It needs to be a big deal.
It needs to be a big deal. Make it a big thing.
Yeah.
Like, and saying that, they've always been there, just like I said, it's just the cheapest
It just doesn't cut it.
No. Not at all.
It's a cop-out.
And you can say that, like, she's not the first ever, but, like, we just haven't, like, they tend to be, like, they just haven't been in any particular position, and it is rare, like, because I don't think that's going to, because, again, you can say it's going to be becoming less rare, but,
Well, it's apparently there's 10,000 custodians, right? This is the number they give you is 10,000. because they are the 10,000.
Yeah.
That's what they refer to as.
Roughly, yeah.
So, we haven't seen all of them.
No.
But we've seen a big chunk of them.
Yeah.
Because there was a big fuck-off demonic incursion on Terra. And it went to attack the Imperial Palace, and it's their job to defend it, so that's what they were doing.
And also, the other thing is, we've also had now that they're out in the wilds fighting, and obviously dying.
Yes.
So
we need
we have
new
to
ones.
replace them a lot quicker than we used to.
Yeah, for years, all they did was, defend the palace. For almost 10,000 years, in fact.
Yes.
All they did was defend the palace, and some of them would have died in that process, without a doubt.
They do.
But
because it happens in the Alfaris novel.
Yeah.
It's just like, I killed him, and it's like, oh, well, it's like, well, why did you kill him? It's like, well, if he couldn't do his... He clearly couldn't do his job if I managed to kill him.
Yeah.
So, therefore, he was useless.
Yeah. So they obviously died in that time and were replaced, but nowhere near to the volume that they're going to be dying.
So, yeah, you can say that, there have been female custodians. They were rare.
Yeah.
Just because of, the nature of the protecting process or whatever it is. But now, as we're, as they're more and more out fighting and dying, they're more good. Again, there's
all
so
possible.
many things we can just keep, just dropping it in and being like, it's always happened.
Yeah.
It's the worst kind of retcon. And I don't care what you're thinking. In any context, it's bad.
But we've always had people of colour within it. Well, have you though? Because everybody else I've seen so far has been white. Where have all the black folk been until now?
Yeah.
Come on now, just give us a decent reason to want to buy yet more plastic crack.
Yeah.
And people will. And for all the bitching and moaning that will be done on the internet, which 95% of it is just done to get a reaction out of people. And fair play, we did scrap our episode that we were going to do in order to talk about this, and it is a hot topic, and probably when this comes out, it will have died off a little bit, but...
Well, this is going to go out on Monday this week, because
So
I'm going to...
Interrupt the regularly scheduled programme.
Yeah, so we're going to put this out, because the thing of it is, I think we all agree that diversity is important.
Yeah.
But when you have a structured world...
Yeah.
If you want to make changes to it, just the line of, well, they've always been there, you haven't seen them, is shit.
It's a cop-out, and
for
it
me,
just
it's
doesn't
equivalent of someone saying, do it because I told you so.
Do it because I told you so.
But why? That makes any sense.
Because I said so.
It doesn't kind of... And I think that's the thing. It's like I said, diversity is important, and I think... I don't think it's celebrated enough the big strides that have been made in really good ways. Like you said, the fact that the Imperial Guard now has some really solid female characters. We have quite a few people of colour now in prominent positions in the story and things like that. It's great. I think that's brilliant. This was just a ham-fisted way, and I feel like it's stirring up controversy for controversy's sake. Yeah. And
so I did hear one that you might like.
Yeah.
By the way, this is an interesting one. It is possible that this was done.
Oh, is this the Amazon thing?
In order to have characters in the Amazon show.
That's crap.
Right?
That is 100%.
And bouncing off of that one.
Yeah.
That Amazon have done that.
Yeah.
In order to tank Games Workshop's stock price, so that they can buy controlling interest in Games Workshop.
No.
And I was
Amazon could buy Games Workshop 10 times over if they really wanted
yes.
to. They have no interest in it, and they won't.
Because why would they? It's not that big
the
a
IP,
deal.
and even if the IP is going to take off, the only way they would do it is if, let's say, the 40k series comes out and it's like the next Game of Thrones, except it doesn't fuck it up.
Yeah.
That is the time where Amazon might be like, well, we want to take control of this IP completely, so we'll buy you out.
Yeah.
This is not the time for that.
No.
It's the same with the Disney Marvel merger, right? Marvel had to have its Iron Man moment. It had to have its Avengers
of course.
thing, where they suddenly became this massive brand, where Disney were like, well, we'll take that, thanks.
Yeah.
That's what companies are like. And I don't think the thing is, again, this comes back to the Rings of Power thing.
Yeah.
People saw the Rings of Power and they think they're going to do the same thing to 40k. But
again,
the best stories to tell in 40k right now is Eisenhorn.
Yeah.
And Eisenhorn is full of female characters, people of colour, all sorts.
Yeah,
so it's fucking irrelevant.
People with
saying,
horns.
we had to make Custodes female. Like, why? Are you specifically making a story that's just Custodes? And I think the reason people think that is because they know that Henry Cavill is a big Custodes player. Yeah. It doesn't have that kind of clout.
Well, at certain points, you've got to think to yourself, why on earth would they put in custodians?
Yeah.
They haven't even put in fucking Space Marines yet.
Yeah. I think they don't
you
even
try
should.
to explain Space Marines to somebody who doesn't understand games, how they work.
Yeah.
Because on the tabletop, again, this is another big thing. If you look at them on the tabletop, when there's like squads of 10 of them everywhere, and tanks and things, that's a big battle. Space Marines go around in 1s and 2s.
Yeah.
Kicking ass.
Well, like Brothers and Snakes, great book for that. Like, where they're like, we need help, and one Space Marine.
One Space Marine turns
This is all I need.
Yep.
I can sort your planet out.
Yeah, it'd be fine. Like, nothing on this planet can probably scratch my armour, so I'll be okay.
But that's the point. It's like, I think this is why I think Eisenhorn is such a great adaptation for them. Because there are Space Marines in it, but when they turn up, it's the oh my god, holy shit moment. And that's the point, is that's the perspective you want to show off Space Marines.
Yeah. You don't want...
Because if everyone's a Space Marine, it's the whole, if everyone's super, no one's super.
Yeah.
And if everyone's a Space Marines, if that's the story you're telling, everyone's a Space Marine, then they just look like your average grunts, and they shouldn't do. That should be a guard story.
Yeah.
But,
like this is the thing, right? I think a lot of the tabletop players lose perspective on just what it actually is to be a Primaris Marine.
Yeah.
Like, you know, these guys can turn up 5 of them and subdue.
Well, it's the
planet.
It's the classic quote from the Heresy, isn't it? You send a squad to take a country, a company to take a world or whatever it is, and you send a chap to take a culture.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole thing. It's like you don't need.
You don't need a lot.
No,
they're hard to kill.
It's the classic thing of, I think, in both Warhammer and both 40k and Fantasy was like the whole steam tank thing. There's supposed to be like 12 steam tanks in existence. It's amazing how every Empire army has at least 2 of them.
Yeah.
You know, like there is always a disconnect between that. There always will be, because you want to have lots of models, because lots of models is cool.
Yeah.
And you want to have the coolest things, the coolest models for your army.
Exactly. And you want to have lots of them. You want to have all of them.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to play with all of them. Whereas, like, you don't want to be like, in order to play against them, then some poor sod has to paint up 30,000 guns.
Yeah.
So that you can drop in like 40 Marines.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, that's not fair. No. So there is always going to be a disconnect there, but I think but when you're doing something that's specifically about the lore, be it a novel or a TV show or movie, whatever it is, any kind of depiction of it, then this is the point where you have the opportunity to show it and show the scale and show the power. And I think it's almost your obligation to do so.
I think so. I think it's really important.
And I think this argument that Hamilton is.
I think that was funny.
No,
I just laugh.
I think there is definitely a reason why something becomes a household name and then suddenly someone else buys them up.
Yeah, totally.
You have to be big enough to stand on your own 2 feet before someone even wants to buy you.
I think a lot of people who are invested in Games Workshop, not as in shareholders, but just invested in general, they are the biggest producer of miniatures like in the world.
And they've become huge over the last over the last 5-10 years. But in the
grand scheme of companies, they are not very big.
I don't even think they've hit $1 billion yet. I don't think.
Like you're talking about like
Bezos could buy them with pocket change.
Yeah, like look at Prime when what's his face launched that when.
Logan Paul
launched that. They did over $1 billion in turnover last year.
Yeah.
Like Games Workshop's never done $1 billion in turnover like ever, like in a year. So like they're not that noticeable. Their lore isn't like the Avengers Assemble movie. You know what I mean? It's like
it has the potential. I think
it does.
It genuinely has the potential.
Yeah.
And that's why I talk about the Iron Man movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that Marvel Comics have been around for like however many decades
before it,
and people know who they are and they know the things that we've had. Like people grew up on like various TV series or comic series or whatever, but it wasn't until we had movies like Blade and Spider-Man and they were kind of successful, but it wasn't until Iron Man came out that made them this cultural touchstone.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until then that they were that IP was suddenly worth that much.
Well, the only reason that Marvel ended up doing Iron Man, it was one of the last ones they still owned.
Well, yeah, because they had to sell them off to get through the comic bust.
Yeah, because they were going bankrupt at least twice.
Yeah.
Like, because nobody was buying comics anymore.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Like,
there's a whole story behind
it. Nobody wanted to buy Iron Man. It was the last one they had left that they could do anything with.
And it was very much their all or nothing moment.
Yeah.
They said they literally, if the movie had failed, they lost the rights to like Captain America,
also
a bunch of other characters. Yeah. Right. But the point was that happened. That Iron Man moment happened, and it took Marvel from being something that people knew existed to being everyone knows wants to see the next Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And Games Workshop is a very similar point now, where a lot of people know Warhammer, especially in the last few years, where their IP has gone off massively into all sorts of corners. that we never would have thought it had been goat before. So people know of Warhammer. I always used to talk about it being the underground society.
The underground society.
We never used to say, "Oh, I play Warhammer." Everyone would be like, the answer would usually be, "Oh, me, my brother, my friend, my dad, whatever used to do that or does that or whatever." So everyone knows what it is. They just don't know more than that.
Yeah.
And I think, if this Amazon thing comes out, is done properly, and it could be the stories that they could tell have the possibility to be the next water cooler moment.
Yeah.
Like they have the opportunity, to be the next Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad or Sopranos, whatever whichever premiere television series you want to insert here.
Yeah.
Fallout, even if it's just like Fallout.
Fallout was good, by the way.
Yeah, but even if it's just good as Fallout, people, it's going to change the hobby, regardless.
Yeah.
But that's the only time that would be worth buying is if their IP suddenly becomes.
Well, nobody wants to buy a
multi-billion.
nobody wants to buy a miniatures company. Why would you? No. That's tedious fucking ball.
The only thing you want out of it is their IP.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's only if you can make billions of dollars in movies.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing with the comics. Like Marvel Comics make nothing by comparison to every single Marvel movie. It makes more money. Every single Marvel movie has made more money, for its theatrical release than probably Marvel Comics have made in a few years.
I would imagine that Iron Man's movies made more money than Iron Man's comics ever did.
The
entirety of their runs, I would have thought the movies made more than the comics ever made.
And that's the point.
Yeah,
that's where the money's at.
Yeah.
And until Games Workshop is worth multi-billions in terms of its in terms of its media output.
Yeah.
I should say.
Because it's all about the media output. It's not about the Plastic Men output.
No one cares.
No one cares about the Plastic Men output.
No.
Why would you?
So the only time people should start working is if it does become a multi-billion-dollar media empire.
Even then, I doubt they'd do much. They want the IP. They don't care about the plastic crap.
Yeah.
They're not bothered about it.
No. They probably do a Disney and just let them keep doing what they're doing.
Doing what you carry on.
Hell, who knows? Disney might even end up buying them.
Yeah. That's the other thing. If you get to that size, and one of them two companies wants you, don't care who you are.
Yeah.
They can just keep adding zeros until you break.
Yeah.
Well, also that guarantees your company for the rest of its.
Yeah, exactly.
Life.
Well, yeah.
And and your family for the rest of time, probably.
Yeah.
Knowing the fact that how much money these companies have got.
Yeah.
It guarantees so many jobs. It guarantees it's a good financially. It's a good move.
It so long as they maintain what they're doing, because you end up with the Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro thing.
Yeah.
Where Hasbro have got involved in what Wizards of the Coast do, and in my opinion,
Disney buyouts seem to be good because they tend to buy the thing and be like, "You do what you do."
Yeah.
We know, what you're doing is making money. You keep doing.
doing the thing. We're going to make some.
Unless you keep blowing holes in your own shit, we're not going to come in and tell you what to do.
Yeah, we're going to make some movies using your shit. You keep making your shit, and that's fine.
But anyway,
But on that note, I feel like we should probably end there.
Yes.
That we've witted on long enough.
We have, and we apologise for the break in regularly scheduled programming, mainly due to Pete's infestation by Grandfather Nurgle, who, next time, we will be discussing, as promised, are we next time, or is it questions and answers next time?
So let me pause this.
Yeah, so bonus episode, this one will go out, breaking the norm.
pretty much as soon as
we've done recording.
we're actually in continuity with real life.
For a change.
For a change.
But back to regularly scheduled on Monday, as of this
we're starting our talk on the Chaos Gods.
Chaos Gods, which will be Khorne first.
The best Chaos God.
The best of the Chaos Gods, in Pete's opinion. Even though he's been infested by Grandfather Nurgle.
Yes, I used my willpower and my hatred to banish him.
Yes, eventually.
Yes. Got there in the end.
Pete's willpower apparently is lacking. So.
It was,
yeah. But so with that, it is goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from her.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.